Huh? Blasphemia?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound good. Okay, keep it going.
Then translates to Latin.
Okay, good. Balaram, what else you got?
Or sacred things. From the early 13th century, from Old French blasphemy, which means blasphemy, from late Latin blasphemia, from Greek blasphemia, a speaking ill, impious speech, slander, from blasphemin, to speak evil of. And then the second element of that is femi, which is utterance, from the Proto-Indo-European root of bha, to speak, tell, say. Should I continue?
What else you got?
The first element is uncertain. Perhaps it is related to blapticus, which is hurtful. Though blax, which means slack in body and mind, stupid, also has been proposed. Devan suggests a connection with the root of Latin malice, bad and unpleasant, from the Proto-Indo-European root mel. In Old Testament usage, the word applied to a more specific crime, against the reverence for Jehovah as the ruler of the Jews, compared to treason.
Okay. We have some ideas there about malice and speaking ill of others. So just may we have a quick discussion on this? Just to be clear on the first offense. So a question is there a case in which one could sign up for not blaspheming devotees at all? I mean, is there a case to be made in Vaishnava history of just not saying anything bad about any devotee? Whatever the circumstances may be. I'm just asking if there, on one end of the spectrum, there's a case that could be made for just categorically saying, I won't criticize devotees for any reason. Yes, Prabhu?
The most extreme example I can think of is Jada Bharat, where he just didn't say anything at all.
Okay, that helps. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. So, is there anybody else in our Vaishnava history who is famous for swearing off any speaking ill of any devotee for any reason that you know of? For those of you yesterday who said you'd read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, you could raise your hand at this point. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is famous. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand up because you're so close. Go ahead.
I remember Narhari Sarkar quoting same thing about Narottam Das Thakur.
Okay, Narottam Das Thakur I was not aware of, but in the Chaitanya Charitamrita itself it's mentioned about Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and one of the reasons he's famous is because he refused to criticize any devotee for any reason whatsoever, as long as they had some penchant for chanting Hare Krishna, it was fine with him. He just didn't go there. So there's one end of the spectrum. You could sign up for the Raghunath Bhatta Goswami program. It's bona fide, right? Yes? Yes. And then what are other types of ways that you could blaspheme a devotee? I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying, what is your sense for what it means to blaspheme a devotee? Pardon me? Okay, Ramachandra Puri went out of his way to criticize devotees, but I'm just saying in every daily life. On the internet, what? Yes? Prabhupada Priya.
I would say that there's never a reason to blaspheme devotees. Because if a devotee is doing something wrong that needs to be corrected, then that's done with a mood of compassion, desiring to help that devotee to improve. So there's no malice, there's no ill intent. So from the definition of blasphemy that we heard, there was an aspect of malice there.
Okay. Could you give a little more about how that might be done in a case when people are discussing a devotee and there's something that appears to be wrong, and how would you participate if you had to without malice?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's only if it's your service to do so. Because, like Prabhupada says in purport to Bhagavad Gita, where he talks about austerity of speech, said if somebody's the teacher, the mentor, the guru, then they can correct the person, but not otherwise. So it's not that everybody should correct everybody. So if it's one's service to do so, and if the person will actually hear from you, then one can gently, while fanning the spark of the good qualities, point out ways, some room for improvement.
So nice, thank you. But what if it's on the internet? Then it's free game, right? You can look at it, read it, and then write back and pile on if you want. Is that okay? You're exempt because you're behind a keyboard?
And ignore it.
Does it count on the internet? Does it count more on the internet? Probably because it's indelible. I mean, what we say is indelible also, but it's doubled down on the internet because it goes into the Akashic record forever that you said it. So there is a case to be made that you could opt out completely, or you could be very careful in administering speech or using speech. And in the case that Prabhupada Priya pointed out, just be aware that if it's not your duty, if someone hasn't signed up and said, I appoint you to criticize me, I live to be corrected, and I've appointed you to be the one to correct me. And if you're not in a management position where you have to make a statement about correct or incorrect behavior, then you're not obligated to also add your commentary on a particular situation about a particular person. It's good to know, isn't it? Say yes. Yes. Because that way you can remain in that zone that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami designated. And I've noticed, just a personal observation, that the most advanced devotees I know are most careful about not getting involved in the maelstrom of criticism, because it can go in a downward spiral really fast. There's also subtleties of speech, like Shakespeare said, damnation by faint praise, that you could be aware of, that somebody's being praised and then like, yeah, whatever. Or just not appreciate devotees, because there's a way in which Shastra says if a devotee comes before you and you're not happy to see them, or you're not appreciative in one way or another, then there could be a problem. So this first offense is so foundational, because the devotees are most dear to Krishna, and when we have the tendency, if we have the tendency to criticize, or a harder word, blasphemy, something with malice, to say, oh, that person is blah, 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 we can replace it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said there's an antidote, which is try to find something good to say. And if you can't do that, every mother in the world teaches her children, if you don't have anything good to say, then so it's better. So that's the first offense. And if we're really careful about that one, and we won't go into the other one today because I took so long on this, but the first offense and the seventh offense, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, are the most dangerous. And so we should, if we attend to the first one very carefully, that is, guard against any words that we put out, any writing that we put out against others, based on the discussion we just had, then our devotional service and the path to chanting Hare Krishna is wide open. Does anybody have any reflection? Just to take 2 more minutes? Yes. It is to maintain, is to commit sinful activity on the strength of chanting Hare Krishna. It has been to feel entitled. Because I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I can do anything I want, and I can, because this will make up for it. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I was just thinking that every soul that turns their head back towards Krishna and is a devotee is so special and so rare, especially in this world. And just to criticize them in any way is it's a little bit ridiculous to me, because the fact that they're even a devotee is so special, and there's so many people who don't even turn their head back to Krishna. And my mom always tells me that, like, she always says, we're all in the shower, is the way she puts it, that we're all trying to cleanse ourselves and we're all getting clean. And she always says that you're dirty too. Like, how can you say that that person is dirtier? We're all in the shower, and at one point we're all going to be clean. So, yeah, she always just, since I was a little girl, she always been saying that.
Just a practical comment, and that is, we're in an international society. Lots of different kinds of people come into it, and some of them have missteps, and bad habits may come out. They may even have malintent at some point, and that may become well known to people everywhere. So this idea of not criticizing isn't mutually exclusive to due process. It means in any situation, if somebody transgresses moral or legal codes, then it should be dealt with. But it doesn't mean then that we have to pile on and become involved in malice towards the person. The two things can be separated. And also, if there are those who are supposed to be doing the due diligence, we do have, if we're not in that non-enviable position of having to deal with these types of things, we also don't have to, I'm just saying, we have permission not to get involved on a mental and also a verbal level to back it up, unless there's a definite purpose for it and the door's open for us to help in that way. But even then, it can be done without malice. Does that make sense? Yes. Last point, and we really will chant.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for bringing up this topic. I was just remembering that there's a quote by my Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and he says that if we, along the lines of, if we think that our definition of right and wrong is correct, then we basically can't go back to Godhead. It's kind of heavy, but and sometimes it does seem clear, like, oh, this was wrong or this is right. But actually, we have no idea what's in a person's heart. And so if we think that we know what's right and wrong, then, like, we're going to be stuck to that, and it will hinder our ability to make spiritual advancement. We can choose for ourselves what's right and wrong, but we can't determine in another person, like, unless we're, like, in that position of, like you were saying, or like Prabhupada Priya was saying, in that position to correct someone. We should never try to judge whether someone else's actions are...
That's a wise advice. Because oftentimes we don't have the full perspective, and there's two sides to every japati that was ever made. And finally, I knew a devotee who was a sādhu, and who, when asked why he was wearing the dress he was wearing, what is your religion, he would say, my religion is to find faults within myself and to overcome them. And if we make that our religion, rather than the religion of finding the faults in others and helping them to overcome them by criticizing them, which always works, then we're likely to be well situated, because there's so much within myself that needs to be improved. So if I deal with that, then by my example that I set, by my careful speech and also my ways of humbly working on myself, that does the most good for the most people, I would propose. So the first offense is something to consider very carefully as a way of life. And if it becomes our way of life, many of the other offenses that we might be inclined to commit will naturally align themselves, because the devotees are most dear to Krishna. Even Krishna says, apichet sudaracharo, even if they do something really weird, then it means, like, hey, like Kelly Kunja Kumari said, her mother said, they're in the shower, so don't criticize. Shall we try chanting? Yes. And we'll give up all malice? Yes. We won't criticize devotees ever? Yes. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna. I just want to follow up at the end here with this point about Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and this is from the Antya-lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You'll find it at Antya-lila chapter 13, Pastimes with Jagadananda Pandit and Raghunath Bhatta. This is text 132. Raghunath Bhatta would neither hear nor speak about anything of the material world. He would simply discuss Krishna and worship the Lord day and night. He would not listen to blasphemy of a Vaishnav, nor would he listen to talk of a Vaishnava's misbehavior. He knew only that everyone was engaged in Krishna's service. He did not understand anything else. Purport: Raghunath Bhatta never did anything harmful to a Vaishnav. In other words, he was never inattentive in the service of the Lord, nor did he ever violate the rules and regulations of a pure Vaishnav. It is the duty of a Vaishnava Acharya to prevent his disciples and followers from violating the principles of Vaishnava behavior. He should always advise them to strictly follow the regulative principles, which will protect them from falling down. Although a Vaishnava preacher may sometimes criticize others, Raghunath Bhatta avoided this. Even if another Vaishnava was actually at fault, Raghunath Bhatta would not criticize him. He saw only that everyone was engaged in Krishna's service. That is the position of a Mahabhagavata. Actually, even if one is serving Maya in a higher sense, he is also a servant of Krishna. Because Maya is the servant of Krishna, anyone serving Maya serves Krishna indirectly. Therefore it is said, Keha mani, keha na mani, shab tar dash, je na mani tar hoy, she pape nash. Some accept him, whereas others do not. Yet everyone is his servant. One who does not accept him, however, will be ruined by his sinful activities. So this was one of the traits of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and I just presenting it as an option that one can take shelter of, remembering that he had opted out of that realm of criticizing devotees or even hearing about it. So it's possible. Any last comments since we discussed it and time to digest it? Yes.
I remember, Maharaj, last retreat we had when 2022 Yatra, we were hearing from you and Madhavananda Prabhu, and you had this series of instruction from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at the Charak Prabhupada, and one of them is that, I'm paraphrasing it because I can't remember exactly, but it said, I have enough faults in my life to introspect rather than going around and trying to find others' faults, actually.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Prabhupada mentions in this purport that a preacher may sometimes criticize others. So we'll find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, Prabhupada gives some strong criticism of his godbrothers because of, and also it's in relationship to those sons of Advaita Acharya who were wayward. They didn't follow their father. So that goes to the case Prabhupada Priya brought up about the fact that there may be some context when one is pointing out that there is a right path and a wrong path, and somebody may be on the wrong path. And Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita as Prabhupada pointed out many times, called people mudhas if they were on the wrong path. And he said, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying that Krishna is saying, and if it fits, then it's okay. Nonetheless, there's a way in which, just like we say that you can use anger in Krishna service, but it's usually the case that one might lose one's anger and then say, I offer that to Krishna. Using your anger and losing your anger are two different things, and similarly, being restrained enough to make constructive criticism for the sake of instructing people on the right path can easily go into the trough of malice. So there's a sense, if one has even a jot of envy in one's heart, that can be brought out very easily when criticism starts, and then it seems to feel good because, oh, now here's an opportunity to constructively criticize, but then it becomes more than that, and there's this indulgence in that sense of, I feel good because I'm dragging somebody else down because it makes me look better. Any last thoughts? We have 30 seconds. They like it. Yes?
Thank you so much for bringing into the attention, and I think this can be also one of the priority that you were yesterday evening mentioning, that how we can, like even Balram Prabhu was mentioning what are the behavioral aspect that we can work on this year. So it's very nice that you brought right on the day one of the year that it can be more prioritized in this year. Thank you.
Yeah, if you make it one of your priorities, then you'll notice it more if it happens and comes up, and you'll have a governor there that reveals how far you've gone. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the Japa Circle. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Panchatattva, if you so desire, please allow us to stay far away from criticizing devotees out of malice. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone who agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadurusha, Kripa Sindhave.